This is the Bluegrass Blues podcast. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Amy.
Well, this is our 11th episode, and strangely enough, we're doing this on September 11th, which is a date that no one's going to forget if you were alive when it happened, but there are lots of things we can talk about there because September 11th sort of became a transition for America, not only in terms of the idea of security, but also the paranoia against different countries and different people. And the other weird thing is this is our 11th episode. But I thought we'd just talk a few minutes about where we were on that day and what our experiences were. Do you remember where you were?
I do. So I had worked on Wall Street, and my last day of Wall Street was on the first bombing in 1993. That was my very last day. We were walking to the World Trade Center for a celebration or going by goodbye party, and that was my last day in New York City. And then I had my first child, and I'm holding her. She's an infant. She was born in November of 2020. And my husband calls me and says, Amy, turn on the TV. And then I watch in complete disbelief from my living room in Louisville, Kentucky, with my infant daughter in my lap.
Well, I was also in New York when the first bombing happened because I worked across the street from the World Trade Center. I was at the Wall Street Journal and working in the World Financial Center. And it was on a Friday, I remember that. And the thing I remember most of all was when the explosion went off, our windows shook in our building. And we thought it was like a transformer had blown up because there were a lot of transformers blowing up in New York at the time. But we realized what was happening because the news stations immediately started broadcasting. And one of the things I remember about that day was leaving the office at the end of the day, and I'd never seen so many police cars, fire engines, FBI, every security thing you can think of was there on that day. So when September 11th, 2001 rolled around, I was not yet in the office. I usually went in the office earlier in the day. And I was just late getting there, and we turn on the TV and we see the plane going into the building. And I immediately know, well, we're not going to work there because I remember what happened the first time. But I was with the Wall Street Journal. We were right across the street from the Trade Center, and when the building collapsed, it also wrecked our building. So we had to move down to central New Jersey. And that was the last day I worked in New York. On September 10th, that was the last day, because on September 11th we were down in New Jersey, and we worked there permanently. I remember the day really vividly, and the other thing was that there were two books written about the events of September 11th, and I'm quoted in both the books. One of them is called September 12th, An American Comeback Story, by Dean Rothbart, and the other one was called Running Toward Danger, and that was by the museum. And it was just working with people who saw the horrors of that day, that really, they were devastated by what was happening, but we all got together. Everyone knew where to go because we had this emergency facility in central New Jersey. So we put together the paper, even though our building had blown up. And the result of that was that we eventually won the Pulitzer Prize for Spot News for that day. But the thing about September 11th, too, is that it really was, to me, it was the beginning of the erosion of rights in the United States. Because soon after that, people were willing to let the government just take over everything. The idea of the surveillance state really took off after that. So laws were passed where people had fewer rights, And the thing was that people gave them up willingly. And we're sort of living through that that setback. One of the things I also remember about September 11th was that there was this real estate developer in New York named Donald Trump. And he said two things that were really egregious. The first was that after the World Trade Center went down, he hinted that he then had the tallest building in New York.
Which isn't true.
Well, no, because the Empire State Building was still there, the Chrysler Building was still there.
Right.
But that's just par for the
Where's that
course.
was?
Yeah, that's what he does. And the second thing he said was that he was watching TV and he saw people of Arab descent in Queens cheering on the collapse of the building, which was a total flat-out lie. Because I was watching TV the same day, and when they showed people who were cheering, those images came from the Middle East. They weren't in New York. But Donald Trump used his racism and his xenophobia, and he used it to his advantage because he then created, as we see now, this atmosphere of just fear of immigrants, saying that they're not worthy of being in the country.
Well,
And-
be very, very afraid of any person of color.
Right,
You're
yeah.
suspect if you have, any tone of color.
Which he said this week when
Yeah.
he's talking about like black people being genetically more violent than whites.
Right.
It's that kind of stuff. So we're dealing with something that happened, that September 11th was, it's amazing. It's more than 20 years ago. It's 24 years ago. And we're still this is really our shift toward the surveillance state and this idea of sending troops into American cities to, stop crime allegedly, when the crime isn't really happening in those cities. It's just this Fox News created myth of danger that has permeated the country with the advent of Donald Trump as president.
Now, I also was thinking about the parallels of people thinking that, oh, this couldn't happen here. And it did, major terroristic event. And now, we see the rise of fascism in our own country. Oh, this can't happen here. Yes, it can, and it is.
Mhm.
And it has been for the last 24 years. When George Bush was president, that's when we invaded Iraq, supposedly to eradicate weapons of mass destruction, which were found not to have existed, right?
Mhm. Right.
But those foreigners, they be terrorists.
Yeah, they're still trying to say that the weapons of mass destruction were moved into Syria. And this is that's one of the lies that they're trying to spread today. But, there were no weapons of mass destruction. There was no reason for going into Iraq other than what turned out to be, other than Dick Cheney getting more oil revenue and getting more of his people rich.
Right.
And George Bush.
Halliburton, was that the country?
Halliburton was the
yeah.
company. And, George Bush, he made it through two terms. And the only reason, he made it through two terms. And by the end of his second term, the country was in economic collapse. So, that's when Barack Obama became president, and that's when the racism really came out in this country, because you had Donald Trump again fomenting this idea that
He's not even a U.S. citizen.
right, he's from Kenya, and that he was a Muslim, and he went through all the
Barack Hussein.
right,
Obama.
which he still does.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he goes through his racist greatest hits,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what his campaign was.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he goes around the country, just reels off this drivel, and it's like the fans are there. It's like going for MAGA. It's like going to a concert and listening for your favorite tune. It's okay. We're going to talk about immigrants. We're going to talk about people eating cats and dogs, and we're going to talk about people coming up from Mexico in pickup trucks to take over Texas. Just ridiculous things like
And
that.
political violence has really been on the upswing.
That's right. And we've had this week the political violence that occurred this week with the death of Charlie Kirk. He was MAGA. He was the young MAGA, the new age MAGA. But everything he was talking about was, it was just ultra right, crypto fascist statements.
Second Amendment.
Well, yeah, I mean, Charlie Kirk said, let me find it here. He said that, this is a quote, "I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have the cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights." So he's saying, okay, it's all okay to kill people in these school shootings or political violence because we get to keep the Second Amendment. He's not saying that anymore, but because he is a victim of what he called for. But, the result now is that we have allegedly a national day of mourning. The flags are at half staff. If you look at the messages that come from Kentucky politicians, every one of them is about
Thoughts and prayers.
thoughts and prayers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the answer for everything. The same day he got shot, which was yesterday. I'm losing track of days now. It's like it's this week. But the same day he got shot, there was a school shooting in Denver. I don't hear the thoughts and prayers for that.
Yeah.
But the thoughts and prayers are kind of irrelevant now because people are dying. The gun violence is just out of control. The United States is one of the most dangerous places to go to in the world in terms of gun violence.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at all what people consider the major developed countries, the United States has the worst incidence of gun deaths because we have more guns than anyone else in the world.
And I also noticed that, Melissa Hortman, who is the Minnesota House Speaker, she and her husband were killed from a politically motivated assassination attempt not too long ago. And just, again, thoughts and prayers, but not nearly the mention of her and her husband because they're Democrats, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, one of the things that shocked me was I was talking to my brother today, and he said he was watching a Yankee game, and the New York Yankees had a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get that at all. It just
we have children being gunned down every day. We have black people, brown people, all kinds of people being gunned down every day. But it's this white supremacist, and believe me, I do not condone violence. I do not condone political violence. I wish we didn't have all these guns in this country. But there is a real disparity on how it's received by media and how it's talked about by legislators and people in power.
right. And just going back to Charlie Kirk, the idea that it's okay for people to die as long as we can keep our guns
Right.
is
Those people. I think what he meant to say is it's okay for
right.
those people.
And
to
if you
die.
look at what the new move by the right is, they're trying to blame gun violence on people who are transitioning.
Oh yeah, no trans people should have guns.
Right. That's that. I hate to say this, but this reminds me of the last time. Well, one of the first times that I saw conservatives call for gun legislation or gun restrictions was back probably in the 60s and late 60s, early 70s in California when Ronald Reagan was governor of California. And he pushed through various gun legislations, not because they cared about people getting shot. It was because the Black Panthers had guns.
Right.
And they were carrying like these automatic weapons or rifles or shotguns that people are now walking along the streets with. But it was black people with guns, and that's when the NRA decided, we have to have some limits on gun use. So,
And we had mentioned that I had bought you that holster for your water bottle,
right, yeah.
and you would not walk with it because it looked like you were carrying a gun.
Yeah, and I don't want to be confused with someone carrying a gun, especially in a place where police tend to shoot before asking questions.
Right.
So it's this fear of guns. Yes, I see the reason why people want to have them, but there is a sort of there has to be some limit on it. If you have like, gun collectors can have as many guns as they want, but if you're going to high school and you want your dad to buy you automatic weapons, which has happened in certain cases, where they go and shoot up schools, and all we can offer is thoughts and prayers.
Right.
That's just.
I think, the bottom line is 9/11 gave the right this opening to make people very, very afraid
Mhm.
of those that do not look like you.
Right. Yeah, and it's going today where we have no idea who shot Charlie Kirk right now. I know the right has been trying to say that it was a trans person, but we don't know. And it also shows the incompetence of our current criminal justice system, especially in the FBI, because when the shooting happened, the FBI director, Kash Patel, came out and said, "Oh, we have the suspect, and the FBI has done a great job." Well, completely wrong. They didn't have anybody. They had no idea where the guy is. They just released images of their main suspect, but there has, as far as I know, right now on September 11th at 2:11 p.m. Eastern Time, no one's been arrested. So anyway, there is this fetish with guns, and we see it not only in our coverage, we also see it in our politicians, and
and in the most bizarre ways.
right, yeah, like I was just thinking, we were discussing this earlier.
Thomas Massey's family's
Right.
Christmas card
They're-
they all have automatic weapons in
Just
their hands.
ready to
Merry
go.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
White
and-
people with big smiles carrying automatic weapons. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, we're protecting. I guess they're going to shoot Santa Claus when he comes down the chimney because he's in a red suit.
Yeah.
That's communism.
Yeah.
But all right, we're criticizing Massey now, but you have to give him some credit because right now he seems to be one of the few politicians in the country who are actually extremely vocal against Donald Trump and going on about, talking about the Epstein Files and all of the, give Massey credit. He stood up for the victims of Epstein, and he's calling for
Young women who were raped
no
and
young.
trafficked.
I think we shouldn't say young women because they were girls.
They were girls.
Yeah, and
You're right.
there's
Girls.
one of these things that happened when I was an editor was that there were always references to the molestation of underage women, and it's
Girls.
like no, let's
Yeah.
say girls. These are like preteens or teenagers.
Thank you.
These are girls. These are not young women. Or yes, they're young. To me, a young woman is someone in her mid-20s.
Yeah, like Mary Jane.
Yeah, but to me, anyone under 18 or under 20, which Donald Trump said he would he would do bad things to them if they were 13, and that was on a Howard Stern broadcast. That's at least Massey is going after the people who are doing this, and there's this really strange situation where it's not only Thomas Massey, it's Rand Paul,
Right.
who's that's two Kentucky legislators, and Morgan McGarvey, our legislator here in Louisville, has also gone into this these attacks on not attacks, but these efforts to get the Epstein Files released. So Massey is pushing legislation, McGarry's pushing legislation, Rand Paul is lining up with the let's release the Epstein Files information. But I don't know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah. Well, and this disloyalty, we've been seeing, again, how Trump is going out against anyone who isn't loyal to him, and we've seen this now with the Federal Reserve Bank, which really must retain its independence. But there was a really good article in the Kentucky Lantern published September 5th by Ken Miller. And he says average Kentuckians will suffer if Trump weaponizes the economy. And I think most Kentuckians don't understand how the Federal Reserve impacts their lives. But first of all, Lisa Cook, the woman that Trump wants to have fired, she happens to be the first Black woman to serve in one of the most powerful economic institutions in the world. So let that sink in, right? We're talking about violence against girls, crimes against girls, and women. Anyway, you all know what I'm talking about. But essentially, what Kentuckians really need to understand is that their well-being has a lot to do with the way that the Federal Reserve works. So, the cost of your loans for farmers to get new equipment, your rising grocery prices,
Well, your
small
mortgages,
business,
your
exactly,
mortgages, if
small
you're-
business loans, your mortgages, all of this has to do with how our central bank works.
Right, your credit card statements, the fees they charge on credit cards, those are using sort of the Fed rate on what the base is for that percentage.
Right, and it's not an abstract battle in Washington. It directly affects Kentuckians, right? And so we really want to lift that up, that all Kentuckians should be working to protect the independence of the Federal Reserve Bank so that you have your economic freedom.
Right. But
I don't think the media does a good job at all with tying this to regular people.
no one seems to understand what's going on with that. And the idea that Trump is going after Jerome Powell, who he appointed, that's the other thing. Trump is always saying that, oh, what idiot appointed these guys? And it's like you look back at history and it's like, oh, Donald Trump appointed him. Or when something happens during that he blames Biden for, it began with the Trump administration. So there is this sort of rabid bunch of loyalty. It's like you have to go to the emperor and declare your allegiance to his forces, which is what the tech guys did last week when that dinner at the White House, where every tech billionaire just sat around and praised him I'm just horrible. It was horrible. It's this idea that they are so desperate to keep their fortunes that they are going to just screw over everyone else. And the thing you have to remember about billionaires is they don't care.
It's never enough. That's the other thing about billionaires.
Right. When what was it? It was Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg, with Facebook/Meta. He gave this figure saying that the tech industry was going to donate $600 billion to improving America. And then on this hot mic moment, he said, Trump, well, I didn't know what number you really wanted me to say here, so I just threw this one out. So they're making up numbers just to appease this tin pot dictator.
Well, and going back to this culture of fear, I really, a lot of us are really wondering where the Democratic Party is.
Yeah.
There is so much opportunity to be telling people the truth and to be tying this into why it's terrible for them. And we're not doing it. And I talked to someone who runs a communications PR firm for Democratic causes, and he basically just said, well, a lot of these people are dumb, and afraid. Now,
Well,
I don't know that the legislators are any dumber than Republican legislators.
when you say dumb,
Yeah.
you're referring to the legislators,
Yes.
not to the populace.
The party.
Party,
The
okay.
party. Like they're dumb and they're afraid. Well, that's inexcusable. Dumb is totally inexcusable, but we see that all over the country with our politicians now. But afraid, this is part of this since 9/11.
Mhm.
This has been what's happening. Be very, very afraid. And now Republicans and Democrats alike are not speaking up about these things because they're afraid.
Yeah,
of
and
Trump.
this is the time for Democrats to not be afraid. This is the time for them to stand up and just say this is wrong. We're not going to take it. But instead, where are the Democratic leaders these days? I hear nothing from Chuck Schumer. I hear nothing from Hakeem Jeffries, Morgan McGarvey. Again, the only Democrats I hear from are Bernie Sanders, who's not really a Democrat, he's a Democratic Socialist, and Alexandria
Independent.
Ocasio-Cortez, who's essentially a Democrat, but along the lines of Bernie Sanders, and Jasmine Crockett in Texas. These are people who are, calling out the lies and calling out the hypocrisy, but the rest of the party, there's this idea, I believe, that they think that people are going to be so pissed off by the next election that they don't have to do the work to get them to, vote against, in this case, vote for their interest instead of voting against their interest as they have in past elections. But we're not seeing the Democrats take advantage of this. Honestly, when Republicans were out of power, they were hammering Democrats every second, blaming Democrats for every bit of evil in the world. And, the Democrats have been just, oh, okay, please don't hurt us. They're curled up in a ball.
Right, and you see this with all the judges that Mitch and his team prevented
Right.
in the Obama administration getting in, and now we see all that's happening in the Supreme Court, the partisan nature of the court. But this fear is real.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Charlie Kirk was just murdered. Politicians are being murdered. So where.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah, where are we going to where is the leadership?
Right.
And that's a question worth asking. Where is the Democratic Party in
Right.
Kentucky? Everyone talks about looking at Democrats on a national scale, but just let's look at the state level. Who runs the party? Why are they not doing anything?
Right, and when Charlie Kirk was murdered, I saw the articles about what politicians on both sides of the aisle in Kentucky said. Everybody sent thoughts and prayers
Right.
to Charlie Kirk's family.
Right.
Every single person,
It's-
Democrat and Republican.
Right, and thoughts and prayers are sort of like, the...
We're not going to do anything.
Right, that's exactly what that means. Well, you're talking about thoughts and prayers, but what action are you going to take to stop this violence? And the answer is, for Republicans, it's like, well, give us more guns. For Democrats, it's like, I don't know what it is. For
I can
Democrats.
assure you, after this murder, this assassination of Charlie Kirk, that way more white people are going to go out and get firearms.
Right, and as I said, they're targeting now the trans community for this. Just out of nowhere, it's like they have to find a victim, or they have to find a scapegoat. Victim is the wrong word because the person who shot is the victim, but the scapegoat for. We're going to focus our efforts on whatever disadvantaged group we can, and with gun violence or with the mass shootings in schools, you would think that there's this old Chris Rock routine where he was talking about gun violence in the schools. And he says, I don't know, you have to do something about white teenage boys.
Right.
But it's something that keeps. It's something that it's like rinse and repeat. Whenever it happens, you know exactly what everyone's going to say. Exactly what the news is going to report, and then you know that nothing's going to happen until the next shooting.
And the
then
fact
next
is, most of these mass shootings are perpetrated by white males.
hmm Yeah, but now they're trying to focus it on the trans community by Republicans saying that there should be laws to ban trans people from having guns, when that's not who's
It's-
doing the shooting.
No.
But you know,
Let's transition to something very positive, shall we?
okay. Is there anything positive?
Yeah. Well, Bernheim, you just went
yes,
to Bernheim,
that's
and I
right.
think you should tell everybody it was your grandson's birthday.
Yeah, my grandson turned 2, so we took a trip to Bernheim Forest. Is that a state forest?
No, it's a private nonprofit.
Okay.
It's kind of like the state arboretum, but not officially.
Well, anyway, we went to
Forest and
Bernheim,
Arboretum.
and they have all these like huge giant sculptures, and
They're giants.
yeah, they're giants, and
Trolls.
it's very child friendly. And you know, we just walked there for a few hours. We had a little birthday party for the 2-year-old, and we, you know, it was a way to get out and take a look at nature and just enjoy the environment. And for a 2-year-old, I'm sure he's never going to remember this when he gets older, but his brother is 5 and he had a good time. He got to see the giants. We took family photos, and it was just a good family gathering. All the grandparents were there, friends were there, and we did have a good time. Lots of walking involved, but it was, you know, nice to get out into the country, enjoy the environment, and it's great that Bernheim is trying to preserve this part of Kentucky, where you know you're not going to be building up new Amazon warehouses, because when you drive out there, you see that various companies are building these huge warehouses along the way and taking up a lot of land. So it was a good time. And there's more coming. Like they're having some kind of bug fest.
Yeah, Bugfest is September 20th. I'll be out there with Kevin Weiner, who is All Bugs Go to Kevin. He has a really strong social media following. He's amazing. Definitely bring your kids out to Bugfest. There's going to be a bug parade where the kids are all in costumes. We'll have bug treasure hunts. It is a blast. It's one of my very favorite things that happens. And I think it's something like 11 to 3 on the 20th. I also want to correct something that I said last time about the 2 venomous snakes being in Kentucky. There are 2 venomous snakes at Bernheim, which is where I volunteer, but there are 4 venomous snakes in Kentucky. And by the way, just leave them alone. They have very beneficial uses, and they're not aggressive. But the 4 Kentucky venomous snakes are the timber rattlesnake, the pygmy rattlesnake, the copperhead, and the water moccasin. And
Which are the 2 in Bernheim?
the 2 in Bernheim are the timber rattlesnake and the copperhead. And I also wanted, Jesse was talking about poisonous and I was talking about venomous, and I just want people to know that the difference is that venomous, which are these snakes, they actively inject toxins through bites. So again, they're really not interested in us. You have to be bitten. Poisonous animals contain toxins that harm if they're ingested or if it's absorbed through skin. So I just wanted to tell you the difference between poisonous and venomous, and that there are 4 venomous snakes in the state, so that we tell you all the right stuff here.
Well, we, as you know, we bought land next to Bernheim. It was 10 acres. And we went out there a couple of weeks ago. So there was a tarp on the property. We picked up the tarp, and 3 copperheads were there. I'm a city person, and you know, snakes are not my thing. So the people who are relatives who live out there took care of those 3 snakes at that time. And then the next day they went back to the property and they found 11 more of them. So I know that the snakes are out there, and I'm not going near them. So,
But don't be afraid of them. So this is something we're going to work on Jesse about.
yeah, well, I was told that if you see a rattlesnake, just leave it alone because it's not going to go after you. The only time a rattlesnake will go for you is when you go toward it or when you like are aggressive toward it. However, copperheads, they will chase you, and so if you see
It's
a copperhead,
unlikely. It's unlikely.
but they're the more aggressive of the two.
Possibly. Leave them alone.
Yeah.
But if they're under your doorstep, and Jesse's moving out to the country, he's got to feel safe. So whatevers. Other fun things, Bourbon and Beyond is this weekend. It starts today. It's got a fabulous lineup. I will say I'm dismayed at how expensive the tickets were. Like one day became like $215 for the day.
Really?
It's a 4-day festival.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can spend a lot of money to go to this festival, which is really sad. And it didn't used to be this way, and I'm really showing you my age. But anyway, good stuff at Bourbon and Beyond. It's right by the fairgrounds. I know people are going and are going to have a blast. And I just wanted to mention that next Wednesday is the last Waterfront Wednesday that WFPK sponsors, and it's down by the Big Four Bridge, and Joy Olatakun is the headliner. If you don't know her, you need to. She is an awesome singer-songwriter. Actually, she's out of Texas, but I think she might be living in Nashville now. Anyway, she's awesome. You don't want to miss her, and that starts at 6 p.m. on the 17th. So there are fun things to do and take care of ourselves and do our yoga and meditation and build community while our empire crumbles.
Well, getting back to the idea of a 4-day music festival. When we lived in Europe, we would do these music festivals in Werchter in Belgium, and it was just 4 days of music. And I went with my son one year to all 4 days. And one of the things I remember was it was the day that Metallica was performing. They were the last act of the last day. And as I'm walking around with my son, I see this guy in a t-shirt, a Metallica t-shirt, and it says something like, "Never too old to rock." And he was with his kids, and I looked at my son and said, "If you ever see me in a t-shirt like that, just put me out of my misery." Because it's just I felt my age at the time, but it was really just these huge festivals are great because you get to see all these artists that you would again the amount that it's
Ringo
gonna
Starr's
cost.
coming, by the way.
What's Ringo Starr?
Ringo Starr.
Oh, Ringo. Oh,
Ringo?
Ringo. Like
Come on.
Well, I'm looking at the
The lineup is
lineup,
really
and it's like
unbelievable.
Foreigner's going to be there
Pat
for old people.
Benatar.
The Goo Goo Dolls, Fish, and Jack White. Just
Cage the Elephant, Alabama Shakes, Lumineers,
the Pixies.
Sturgill Simpson, Noah Kahn. I mean, it really, they've got top talent here.
Yeah, this is a big deal, and but the price is really
Pretty
up there.
prohibitive, very prohibitive.
And that's
Oy.
that's the unfortunate thing. These festivals used to cost a lot less. Going to Churchill Downs used to cost a lot less for Derby. Now those tickets are out of range. This is beginning to get out of range, and it makes you wonder. Are people aware that this is not a state of rich people? It's Kentucky is not doing well, just in terms of people's financial situations, and there are things that, there are things that you can do here, like the World Fest. Was
Yeah,
that it?
World Fest was awesome.
World Fest was free.
150,000 people estimated to go.
Yeah, and-
celebrating our diversity,
Right.
celebrating our immigrant communities.
And that was last week.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And they had 3 stages of music. There was one stage that was doing jazz. There was another stage. I was walking around, and there was like this children's puppet show on stage with little kids in the front just dancing while the people were singing. And
There were Latinx, like there were dance troupes of young people,
Right.
and they were so great. It was so fun.
yeah, the day I went, there were belly dancers, and there was this really good Doors cover band. They were just doing the hits of the Doors, and they were just really well
The
done.
food's really good too, and you can the merchants that are there, their merchandise was very reasonably priced. A lot of us got like gifts for people for the rest of the year at World Fest.
Well, yeah.
It was fun.
So there's a lot going on, and let's not forget that in 3 weeks we're going to have the art show, the
St. James Art Show. Come on down.
That's hundreds of thousands of people as well, and
First weekend in October.
right. And there is affordable art. If you're looking for affordable art,
Yeah,
it's
there
going to be there. The artists are coming from all over the country. There are regulars, like I know a couple or some people who come from Michigan every day. We've had people come in from Florida and California, and it's just a time to.
And it's free. Like you
Right,
can
that's
walk
the
around for
difference.
free,
See,
like
yeah.
World Fest.
Yeah, so these festivals like Bourbon and Beyond are great if you have money to go. But if you're looking for something to do and you don't have money, do the art shows and do the World Fest.
Last year was the Paw Paw Festival. Last week was the Paw Paw Festival at the Louisville Nature Center, and they celebrated everything Paw Paw, and it was free, and there were kids, and yeah. So look for the free stuff. We've got a lot of that around here, around the state too.
Yeah. There's well, it's good to know that there are things to do that are affordable, because we also just need some relief from the news.
Right.
We need to not be consistently bombarded with the idea that everything is bad, nothing's getting better.
Right.
But
do educate yourselves, and we've talked about the 5 Calls app. Do what you can. Be in community. Don't isolate. Reach out, and there is something for all of us to do.
yeah. So
Thanks for joining us for our 11th on 9/11. I'm going to end with something really fun. Speaking of 11, there is a funny ass video of 2 Scottish guys in an elevator. You can search it on YouTube. Search 11 elevator Scotland. Believe me, it's a short video of these 2 guys trying to get a voice activated elevator to take them to the 11th floor. And the woman has like an American voice, and she keeps asking them, please, give me your floor destination, blah, blah, blah. And they end up like just fighting with this voice activated elevator. And then, well, I won't give you the punchline at the end, but it's really fun. So
okay.
Elevator 11 Scotland, you got to Google it.
Okay, I will do that right after we're finished with this podcast. So we will be back in 2 weeks. We'll be back right before the art show, so we will remind you, everybody, take care of yourself.
Bye.
Our closing music is by John Chamberlain.